There's a quiet power in walking away without explanation, in not needing to be understood, in choosing your peace over someone else's curiosity. Because when you stop trying to make her see your worth, that's when you truly own it. You stop performing, stop proving, stop chasing closure from someone who already gave you the only answer you needed, her choice. And in that silence, something shifts, not in her, in you. A deep, unshakable knowing settles in. I am not here to convince, I am here to become. That's the moment everything changes. Not because she's gone, but because you're finally present, fully, completely, no longer split between who you are and who you were trying to be for her, no longer sacrificing your truth to keep someone close. You're not bitter, you're not angry, you're just done. Done with the emotional weight of holding on to something that moved on. Done with the illusion that if you just loved harder, showed more, waited longer, it would be enough. But real love doesn't need to be earned. It's recognized, it's returned, it's protected. And if it wasn't, then it wasn't love. It was a lesson. And lessons aren't losses, they're upgrades. Every man who has ever risen from heartbreak, from failure, from rejection, didn't do it by holding on. He did it by letting go and then building something so strong, so undeniable, that the past couldn't pull him back. Because strength isn't measured by how long you endure. It's measured by when you decide to change direction. By the moment you say, I've had enough of living small just to fit into someone else's world. That's the turning point. The spark, the beginning of a life that's no longer shaped by lack, but by purpose. You don't need her to validate your growth. You don't need her to see how far you've come. The proof isn't in her reaction, it's in your routine. In the way you speak now with confidence, not caution. In the way you carry yourself with pride, not apology. In the way you protect your time like it's sacred, because you finally understand every minute spent hoping for her return is a minute stolen from your future. And you're done stealing from yourself, so you train, you work, you build, not for show, not for revenge, but because you've made a silent vow, I will not waste this pain. I will not let this moment pass without becoming stronger. I will not let her choice be the end of my story, but the beginning of my transformation. And that decision, made quietly in the dark, is more powerful than any loud declaration. Because real change doesn't announce itself. It simply shows up 6 months from now, a year from now, when you're standing taller, speaking clearer, living bolder. When you meet someone new and they don't have to ask if you're confident, they feel it. When opportunities come not because you're chasing them, but because you've become the kind of man they're drawn to. When your energy shifts from lack to abundance, from need to contribution. That's when you'll know the pain had a purpose. And the best part? You won't care if she sees it, you won't need her to, because you've moved beyond the need for external approval. You've built an internal standard so high that no opinion, especially not one from the past, can shake it. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are choosing yourself every single day in the way you speak, the way you move, the way you refuse to settle. That's not ego. That's self-respect. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. And when you live from that place, grounded, focused, unshakable, something incredible happens. You stop losing. Not because you win her back, but because you stop playing a game that was never yours to win. You step off the battlefield of her indecision and walk into your own kingdom, one built on discipline, on vision, on unrelenting belief in your own future. And in that kingdom, there is no room for regret. Only expansion, only elevation, only the man you were born to be, finally free to rise. You were never meant to beg for a place in someone's life. You were meant to build a life so strong, so undeniable, that people have to earn a place in it. That shift from needing to being needed is where real power begins. Not the kind of power that controls, but the kind that attracts. That commands respect without demanding it. That walks into a room not looking for approval, but radiating a quiet certainty that says, I know my value. I protect my energy. I am not available for anything less than mutual respect and deep connection. That's not pride. That's self-awareness. And it's the most attractive thing a man can possess. Because here's what no one tells you. When you stop chasing love, love starts chasing you. Not the fragile, conditional kind, but the real kind. The kind that shows up without games, that stays without pressure, that chooses you not because you're perfect, but because you're whole. But you can't receive that kind of love if you're still emotionally occupied by someone who left. You can't make space for what's meant for you while you're guarding the door for someone who already walked out. So close it. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with finality. with the quiet strength of a man who's done sacrificing his future for a past that's already over. Because every second you spend mentally revisiting her, wondering what she's doing, hoping she'll see your success and regret her choice, you're delaying your own freedom. You're giving power to a memory instead of building a reality. And the truth is, she's not out there thinking about you the way you think about her. She's living her life, making her choices, and so must you. This isn't about forgetting, it's about refocusing, redirecting your energy from longing to building, from looking back to leveling up. Because the most dangerous trap after heartbreak isn't sadness, it's stagnation. The slow, silent erosion of your ambition, your confidence, your drive, the way you start to believe you're not enough, not worthy, not lovable. But that voice, it's not truth. It's trauma talking. It's pain disguising itself as wisdom. And the only way to silence it is not with words, but with action. So move every single day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Let your discipline be louder than your doubt. Let your consistency be the proof that you're still in the fight. Wake up and train like your confidence depends on it, because it does. Work like your future is watching, because it is. Speak to yourself like you're someone worth believing in, because you are. These aren't small acts, they're rebellions. Quiet revolutions against the idea that you lost something essential when she left. You didn't lose love, you lost a version of it. And now you're making space for the real thing, the kind that doesn't make you question your worth. The kind that doesn't keep you guessing, the kind that meets you with the same fire, the same loyalty, the same depth that you bring. But you'll never find it if you're still emotionally chained to the past. You have to be free to receive it, free to say yes without fear, free to trust without hesitation. And that freedom, it's not given, it's taken. It's taken when you delete the messages you shouldn't have kept, when you stop checking her profile, when you replace late-night thoughts of her with early morning focus on your goals, when you choose growth over grief, not once, but daily. That's how you rebuild, not in a moment, not in a month, but in 1,000 small decisions that add up to a life no rejection can define. One day you'll realize you don't want her back. You want what she symbolized, connection, intimacy, being chosen. But now you know you don't need her to give you that. You can build a life so full of purpose, so rich in self-respect, that real love finds you, naturally, effortlessly, powerfully. And when it does, you won't recognize it at first, because it won't feel like desperation. It won't feel like obsession. It will feel like peace, like ease, like two whole people choosing each other, not to fill a gap, but to amplify what's already strong. But first, you must become that man, the one who walks away with his head high, the one who turns pain into power, the one who doesn't just survive the loss, but uses it to rise. There's a moment, silent, unannounced, when you stop measuring your progress by her absence and start measuring it by your presence. Not how much you miss her, but how fully you're showing up for yourself. That's the turning point, the invisible line between who you were and who you're becoming. Because healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about refusing to let it overshadow your future. It's about realizing that the deepest wound wasn't her leaving. It was the moment you started believing you weren't enough because of it. And that lie, that's what's been holding you back. But right now, in this moment, you can let it go. Not because it didn't hurt. It did, deeply. But because you've carried that pain long enough, you've honored it, you've learned from it. Now it's time to outgrow it. To stop letting a single choice from someone else define your confidence, your worth, your direction. You are not a man defined by rejection. You are a man refined by it, tempered, sharpened, made more focused, more disciplined, more determined to never again place his peace in someone else's hands. Because here's the truth they don't talk about. The most dangerous thing in a man's life isn't failure. It's comfort in mediocrity. It's staying in a situation that dulls your edge, silences your fire, makes you forget your strength. And sometimes the universe removes someone not to punish you, but to protect you, to force you back into your power, to remind you that you were never meant to beg for loyalty. You were meant to command it through the life you build, the standards you set, the man you become. So stop asking, why wasn't I enough? Start demanding, who do I need to be, to never need that question again. That shift changes everything. It moves you from victim to architect, from waiting to building, from hoping to doing. And in that doing, you reclaim your energy, your time, your focus. Every morning you choose discipline over despair. Every night you choose growth over regret. You're not just moving on, you're moving up. And the higher you climb, the smaller the past becomes. Not because it didn't matter, but because your future matters more. You don't need her to validate your rise. You don't need her to see your success and feel regret. That kind of attention is cheap, empty. Real victory is internal. It's waking up and realizing you no longer care what she thinks. It's meeting someone new and not comparing them to her. It's building a life so full of purpose that the thought of going back to who you were, pleasing, chasing, needing, feels foreign, like looking at a photo of someone you used to know. That's not coldness, that's clarity. And clarity is power. It cuts through the noise. It silences the doubt. It reminds you that love should never feel like a negotiation. It should feel like alignment, like two people choosing each other every single day, without hesitation, without fear. And if she couldn't give you that, then she didn't fail you. She freed you. She cleared the space for something real, but only if you're willing to stop living in the shadow of what was and step fully into the light of what's possible. So protect your energy like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Don't waste it on people who don't reciprocate. Don't pour it into conversations that go nowhere. Don't give it to memories that keep you stuck. Redirect it into your body, into your mind, into your mission. Let your focus become your weapon. Let your consistency become your signature. Let your silence become your strength. Because the world doesn't reward the man who screams his pain. It rewards the man who uses it. The man who doesn't break under pressure but becomes unbreakable. The man who doesn't need attention to stay motivated. The man who shows up even when no one's watching. That's the man who wins. Not by getting her back, but by becoming someone she could never keep up with. And when that happens, when you're living at that level of self-mastery, purpose, and inner peace, you won't be looking back. You'll be too busy building a life so powerful, so undeniable, that the past doesn't just fade, it becomes irrelevant. There will come a moment, quiet, unforced, when you realize you're no longer waiting for her to see what she lost. You're too busy living what you've gained. And in that instant, something final settles within you. Not bitterness, not closure, not even forgiveness, something deeper, indifference. Not the cold kind, the free kind. The kind that says, her opinion of me no longer shapes my reality. And that's the ultimate release. The final chain broken. Because the truth is, you never needed her to regret leaving. You needed to stop regretting staying as long as you did. You needed to stop measuring your worth by how badly you wanted her to choose you. You needed to realize that real love doesn't make you feel small just to keep you close. It expands you, challenges you, or stands beside you, not above you. And if she couldn't do that, then her leaving wasn't your failure. It was your rescue. You don't win by winning her back. You win by no longer needing to. That's the quiet revolution, the internal shift that changes everything. When you stop begging for loyalty and start embodying it, when you stop chasing affection and start commanding respect, when you stop defining love by someone else's presence and start building it into your own character. Because the most powerful love isn't the kind you receive, it's the kind you become. The discipline to show up, the courage to walk away, the strength to rebuild in silence. That's love. For yourself, for your future, for the life you refuse to compromise. And that love, it doesn't shout, it doesn't demand attention, it simply is, like a mountain, like the ocean, unshaken, unmoved, certain. That's the energy you're cultivating now, not for her, not for anyone, for you. Because you've learned the hardest lesson, no external validation can fill the void that only self-respect can close. You can have every woman in the world tell you you're worthy, but if you don't believe it, it means nothing. And you can have one walk away, but if you know your value, it changes nothing, so you keep going. Not because it's easy, because it's necessary. You train your body not just for strength, but for confidence. You grow your mind not just for knowledge, but for clarity. You protect your time not out of pride, but out of purpose. Every decision you make now is a declaration. I am no longer available for anything less than my full potential. I am no longer trading my peace for the illusion of connection. I am no longer letting someone else's choice define my trajectory. One day, without warning, you'll realize you haven't thought about her in weeks. Not because you forced it, not because someone new came along, but because your life became too full, too focused, too forward-moving to make space for the past. And when that happens, don't rush it. Don't question it. Just accept it. This isn't forgetting. This is evolution. This is the mind and soul aligning with a new truth. I am not who I was. I am becoming who I was meant to be. And when you finally stand in that truth, unshaken, unbroken, unafraid, you won't need revenge. You won't need apologies. You won't need her to see how far you've come, because you'll already know. And that knowing, that's the real victory. Not that she left, but that you stayed with yourself, that you didn't break, that you rebuilt, that you rose. And now you're not just healing, you're hunting. Hunting greatness, hunting purpose. Hunting the life that's waiting for the man who refuses to stay down. So keep moving, keep building, keep becoming. Because the best revenge isn't her regret. It's your rise and your rise. It's already happening. You are no longer the man who needed her to validate his worth. You are the man who proves it, daily, silently, relentlessly. And that shift, it doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in the quiet moments, when you choose the gym over the couch, when you open your laptop instead of scrolling through memories, when you speak up for yourself instead of shrinking to keep the peace. These are not small victories. They are the foundation of a new identity. One built not on hope, but on action, not on longing, but on discipline, not on what was taken, but on what you're creating. Because here's what pain teaches only the willing. Suffering doesn't have to be wasted. It can be repurposed. Every sleepless night, every wave of doubt, every moment you felt invisible, those weren't signs you were broken. They were signals you were being prepared, forged in silence, tempered by rejection, shaped by loss. And now, the fire that once burned you is fueling you. You're not running from the past. You're outrunning it, not with speed, but with consistency, with focus, with the kind of daily effort that no one sees, until one day, everyone does. And when they do, they won't see the man who was left. They'll see the man who refused to stay down, the one who turned silence into strength, who used loneliness to deepen his purpose, who didn't wait for motivation, but became it. That's the transformation. Not in the way you look, though that will change. Not in the money you make, though that will come. But in the unshakable core that now lives inside you, the certainty that you are enough, not because someone said so, but because you've proven it to yourself. That's the real win, not her regret, not a new relationship, not external validation. It's the quiet confidence that you can lose everything and still rebuild, that you can be rejected and still rise, that you can walk through fire and come out not burned, but brighter. Because now you know you don't need her to feel whole. You don't need anyone to make you complete. You were never incomplete. You were just distracted by the need to be chosen when you were meant to be choosing your standards, your path, your future. So protect that fire. Don't let old habits reignite. Don't fall back into the trap of wondering what she's doing, who she's with, if she misses you. That energy belongs to your mission now, to your goals, to the life you're building brick by brick. Every time you feel the pull of the past, redirect it. Channel it into your work, into your health, into your vision. Let your focus be your weapon. Let your progress be your proof. Let your silence be your strategy. Because the world doesn't reward the man who talks about what he'll do. It rewards the man who does it without announcing it, without needing credit, without looking back. That's the level you're reaching now. Not for show, not for revenge, but because you've tasted what's possible when you stop waiting and start becoming. And once you've felt that momentum, you'll do anything to keep it. One day you'll realize you don't want her back. You want what she represented. Love, connection, being seen. But now you know you don't need her to give that to you. You can build a life so strong, so authentic, so aligned with your values that real love finds you. Not because you're searching, but because you're worthy. And when it comes, it won't feel like desperation. It won't feel like relief. It will feel like balance, like two whole people meeting in strength, not need. But first, you must stay the course, stay focused, stay disciplined, stay committed to the man you're becoming. Because the final victory isn't in her seeing you. It's in you seeing yourself clearly, fully, without apology, and saying, I am not what she left behind. I am what she couldn't handle. And that's exactly why I win. You are not broken, you are becoming. And that process, this quiet, relentless transformation, is the most powerful thing you've ever lived through. Not because it's easy, but because you're doing it alone. No spotlight, no applause, no one checking in to see if you're okay. Just you, your pain, and the unshakable decision to turn it into power. That's where greatness is born, not in victory, but in the unseen struggle, not in love returned, but in self-respect reclaimed. You're not healing because time passed. You're healing because you chose again and again to show up for yourself when no one else did. That choice, small, silent, daily, is revolution. Because the real battle was never about her. It was about you. About whether you would let rejection define you, or refine you, about whether you'd shrink from the pain or let it shape you into someone stronger. And you chose strength, not in a moment of inspiration, but in 1,000 moments of discipline, when you got up early, when you said no to distractions, when you worked while others slept, when you faced the mirror and refused to look away, even when the man staring back was tired, hurt, uncertain. You stayed, and in staying, you won. You didn't win by holding on. You won by letting go of need, of ego, of the desperate hope that she'd realize your worth. And in that release, you found something far greater, yourself. Not the version of you that tried to fit into her world, but the one that builds his own. And that man, he doesn't beg for attention, he earns respect. He doesn't chase love, he becomes someone love is drawn to. Not because he's perfect, but because he's real, grounded, driven, clear on his standards, unwilling to trade his peace for temporary comfort. He knows that real connection doesn't come from desperation, but from wholeness. And so he focuses on becoming whole, not for her, not for anyone, but because he finally understands his life is his legacy, and no one else gets to build it for him. So you keep moving, not fast, not loud, but forward with purpose, with fire in your chest and vision in your eyes. You don't need her to see your success to know it's real. You feel it in your routine, in your confidence, in the way you carry yourself now, like a man who's been through hell and came out with a plan. That plan isn't about revenge. It's about elevation, about proving to yourself that you can lose everything and still create something greater. And you will, not because it's fair, but because you refuse to let pain be the end of your story. One day, without fanfare, you'll realize you don't miss her. You miss the idea of love, the comfort, the companionship, but not her, not the woman who chose someone else, because the man you've become, he doesn't fit into that life anymore. He's too focused, too driven, too aware of his value to settle for anything less than full commitment, full presence, full loyalty. And if she couldn't give that, then she never could have kept him anyway. So let her go, not with anger, but with gratitude. Thank her for the clarity, for the pain that woke you up, for the space she left behind, which you're now filling with purpose, discipline, and self-belief. That space isn't empty. It's fertile ground. And you're planting something powerful there, your future. And when that future arrives, when you're living with confidence, when you're leading, creating, loving from strength, you won't look back with regret. You'll look back with respect for the man who didn't break, who didn't beg, who didn't lose himself, who stood in the fire and said, "This will not destroy me, this will define me." That man is you, right now, in this moment, choosing again, building again, rising, not because it's easy, but because he refuses to stay down. And that's not just winning, that's mastery, that's legacy, that's the life you were born to live. You are not waiting for permission anymore. That silence inside you, the one that used to scream with doubt, with longing, with the need to be seen, is now filled with something deeper. Purpose, conviction, a quiet fire that doesn't need to prove itself. You've stopped looking for signs, stopped analyzing old messages, stopped measuring your worth by someone else's choices. And in that stillness, you've discovered the most powerful truth: you were never lost. You were simply being stripped down to your foundation. Every man who rises must go through this. Not just heartbreak, but the dismantling of everything he thought defined him, his relationship, his identity, his sense of belonging. It's not punishment, it's purification. Because until you're forced to stand alone, you'll never know how strong your own feet are. Until you lose the one thing you thought you couldn't live without, you'll never realize how much more you were meant to become. And now you're becoming it. Not in bursts of motivation, not in dramatic declarations, but in the daily grind of showing up for yourself. In the way you speak now, clearer, firmer, without hesitation. In the way you move, slower, steadier, with intention. In the way you protect your energy like it's the most valuable currency you have. Because it is. And you've learned the hard way, you can't build a future with people who drain your present. So you let go, not just of her, but of the need to be understood by her, of the hope that she'll see your growth and regret her choice. That kind of attention is temporary, empty. Real power isn't in making someone else feel regret. It's in living a life so strong, so focused, so undeniable that regret becomes irrelevant. Because one day she might hear your name and pause. She might see your work, your presence, the way you carry yourself now, and feel something. But by then, it won't matter. You won't be chasing that moment. You won't be waiting for it. You'll be too far ahead, too deep in your mission, too committed to your vision to care. And That's freedom. Not the kind that comes from revenge, the kind that comes from indifference, born not of coldness, but of self-mastery. You don't need her to validate your rise. You've already validated it. Every time you chose discipline over distraction, growth over comfort, truth over illusion, those choices made in silence are louder than any applause. They're the bricks of a new life. One not built on hope, but on action. Not on need, but on self-respect, and that life is already happening. You might not see it yet. It might still feel like you're in the dark, moving forward without a map. But you're not lost. You're in transition. And every great man in history, every leader, every builder, every warrior was once right where you are, alone, hurt, questioning, and then, one day, unshakable. Because pain, when met with courage, becomes fuel. And you've stopped running from it. You've started using it. You train not just to look better, but to feel unstoppable. You work not just to earn more, but to prove to yourself that you can create value, regardless of circumstances. You speak your truth not to impress, but because you've stopped fearing rejection. And that's the real shift. Not in your body, not in your bank account, but in your mindset. You no longer see her choice as a verdict on your worth. You see it as a filter, a moment that revealed not your lack, but her limits. And now you're building a life too powerful for anyone to walk away from. Not because you're trying to hold them, but because you've become someone worth staying for. But you don't do it for them. You do it for you. Because the man who walks away from love with his dignity intact doesn't lose. He wins, not immediately, not loudly, but deeply, permanently. And when you finally stand in that truth, when you're living with focus, with fire, with unshakable belief in your path, you won't need to tell anyone what you've been through. They'll see it in your eyes, in your energy, in the way you move through the world, like a man who was broken, refused to stay down, and rebuilt himself into something unstoppable. There's a moment, so subtle you might miss it, when you stop checking the past for answers and start building the future with your hands. No more wondering what went wrong. No more replaying the final words, the last look, the silence that followed. You've stopped dissecting a relationship that already ended, and you've started constructing a life that finally begins. And that shift, it doesn't come from forgetting. It comes from focus, from the quiet, unrelenting decision to stop being a prisoner of memory and become the architect of your destiny. Because you've learned the hardest lesson, love should never cost you your self-respect. It should never demand that you shrink, beg, or betray who you are just to stay close. And if she couldn't love you fully, if she chose someone else, if she hesitated, if she walked away without a fight, then she didn't fail you. She revealed you. She showed you the kind of love you're willing to accept. And now, because of that, you're raising the standard. Not for her, for you. You are no longer available for half-hearted connections, for people who make you feel like an option, for relationships built on convenience, not commitment. You've outgrown the need to be chosen at any cost. Now, you choose yourself every single day in the way you speak, in the goals you set, in the boundaries you enforce. That's where real power lives. Not in being loved, but in being unshakable. Not in being needed, but in being undeniable. And that undeniable version of you is being built right now. In the early mornings when no one's watching, in the late nights when you push through fatigue, in the quiet decisions to do the right thing even when it's hard. You're not waiting for motivation, you're creating momentum. One workout, 1 hour of work, one moment of courage at a time. And slowly, steadily, you're becoming someone who doesn't need validation to move forward, someone who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole, someone who carries his own light. That's not arrogance, that's evolution. Because the truth is, the right woman won't need to be convinced to stay. She won't keep you guessing. She won't make you feel like you're too much or not enough. She'll choose you clearly, consistently, completely. And when that happens, it won't feel like a struggle. It will feel like alignment. Like two people moving in the same direction, not dragging each other backward. But you can't recognize that kind of love if you're still clinging to a version of love that hurt you. You have to be free to see it, free to receive it, free to deserve it. And that freedom starts now, not when you get over her. Not when time heals everything. Now, in this moment, by making one decision, I will not let someone else's choice define my future. I will not punish myself for loving deeply. I will not treat my heart like it's broken just because it was rejected. My heart isn't broken. It's brave, it loved without guarantee, it gave without knowing the return. And that's not weakness, that's courage most men never touch. So stop punishing yourself for caring. Start honoring yourself for being capable of real love. And then redirect that love into your purpose, into your growth, into the man you're determined to become. Let your pain fuel your mission. Let your silence sharpen your focus. Let your loneliness become your laboratory, where you rebuild your confidence, your discipline, your identity. Because the world doesn't reward the man who begs to be seen. It rewards the man who refuses to be ignored. One day, you'll wake up and realize you haven't thought about her in weeks. Not because you forced it, not because someone new came along, but because your life became too full, too purposeful, too powerful to make space for regret. And when that day comes, you won't feel sad. You'll feel grateful. Grateful that she chose differently. Grateful that you were forced to rise. Grateful that you finally learned the most important truth of all. You were never losing her. You were finding yourself. And that's not just winning. That's freedom. That's power. That's the life you were meant to live. You are not waiting for closure. You are becoming it. That's the quiet revolution no one sees. The moment you stop searching for answers in her silence and start living the truth in your own actions. Because closure doesn't come from a conversation. It comes from change. From the daily decision to no longer let someone else's choice dictate your confidence, your direction, your peace. You've stopped asking why she left. Now you're focused on why you stay, why you keep going, why you keep building, why you refuse to let pain be the end of your story. And that focus, that's where your power returns, not in a moment of drama, in 1,000 moments of discipline. You don't need her to apologize. You don't need her to regret. You don't need her to see how far you've come. You've already moved beyond the need for external validation. Because you've built something stronger than approval, you've built self-trust, the kind that comes from doing what's right even when it hurts, from training when you're tired, from working when you'd rather quit, from speaking up when you used to stay silent. These are not small things. They are the quiet rebellions that rebuild a man from the inside out. And now, you're not just surviving the loss, you're using it. You've turned your pain into purpose, your loneliness into leverage, your rejection into fuel. Because you've realized something most men never do. The deepest wounds often lead to the greatest awakenings. The heartbreak wasn't the end of your strength. It was the beginning of it. It stripped you bare so you could rebuild with truth, not illusion. So you could stop pretending you were okay and start becoming someone who actually is. That man, the one you're shaping now, doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't chase attention. He doesn't post for likes. He doesn't measure his worth by how many people notice him. He knows his value is not up for debate. It's earned in the unseen hours, in the sweat, in the silence, in the choices no one applauds but you. And that kind of confidence, it can't be faked. It can't be borrowed. It has to be forged. And you've been in the fire long enough to know you're not coming out broken. You're coming out built. So you protect your energy like a warrior protects his sword. You don't waste it on people who don't reciprocate. You don't give it to memories that keep you stuck. You don't pour it into fantasies about what could have been. You redirect it into your body, into your mind, into your mission. Because you've learned the hard way, time, focus, and emotion are the only true currencies in life, and you're done spending them on something that no longer exists. One day, without warning, you'll realize you don't want her back. You want what she represented: love, connection, being chosen. But now you know you don't need her to give you that. You can build a life so strong, so aligned, so full of self-respect that real love finds you, not because you're searching, but because you're worthy. And when it comes, it won't feel like relief. It will feel like balance, like two whole people meeting in strength, not lack. But first, you must stay the course, stay focused, stay disciplined, stay committed to the man you're becoming, because the final victory isn't in her seeing you. It's in you seeing yourself clearly, fully, without apology, and saying, I am not what she left behind. I am what she couldn't handle. And that's exactly why I win. There's a moment, silent, unannounced, when you stop measuring your progress by her absence and start measuring it by your presence. Not how much you miss her, but how fully you're showing up for yourself. That's the turning point. The invisible line between who you were and who you're becoming. Because healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about refusing to let it overshadow your future. It's about realizing that the deepest wound wasn't her leaving. It was the moment you started believing you weren't enough because of it. And that lie, that's what's been holding you back. But right now, in this moment, you can let it go. Not because it didn't hurt. It did, deeply. But because you've carried that pain long enough, you've honored it, you've learned from it, now it's time to outgrow it. To stop letting a single choice from someone else define your confidence, your worth, your direction. You are not a man defined by rejection. You are a man refined by it. Tempered, sharpened, made more focused, more disciplined, more determined to never again place his peace in someone else's hands. Because here's the truth they don't talk about. The most dangerous thing in a man's life isn't failure. It's comfort in mediocrity. It's staying in a situation that dulls your edge, silences your fire, makes you forget your strength. And sometimes the universe removes someone not to punish you, but to protect you, to force you back into your power, to remind you that you were never meant to beg for loyalty. You were meant to command it through the life you build, the standards you set, the man you become. So stop asking, why wasn't I enough? Start demanding, who do I need to be to never need that question again? That shift changes everything. It moves you from victim to architect, from waiting to building, from hoping to doing. And in that doing, you reclaim your energy, your time, your focus. Every morning you choose discipline over despair. Every night you choose growth over regret. You're not just moving on, you're moving up. And the higher you climb, the smaller the past becomes. Not because it didn't matter, but because your future matters more. You don't need her to validate your rise. You don't need her to see your success and feel regret. That kind of attention is cheap, empty. Real victory is internal. It's waking up and realizing you no longer care what she thinks. It's meeting someone new and not comparing them to her. It's building a life so full of purpose that the thought of going back to who you were, pleasing, chasing, needing, feels foreign. Like looking at a photo of someone you used to know. That's not coldness, that's clarity. And clarity is power. It cuts through the noise. It silences the doubt. It reminds you that love should never feel like a negotiation. It should feel like alignment. Like two people choosing each other every single day, without hesitation, without fear. And if she couldn't give you that, then she didn't fail you. She freed you. She cleared the space for something real, but only if you're willing to stop living in the shadow of what was and step fully into the light of what's possible. So protect your energy like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Don't waste it on people who don't reciprocate. Don't pour it into conversations that go nowhere. Don't give it to memories that keep you stuck. Redirect it into your body, into your mind, into your mission. Let your focus become your weapon. Let your consistency become your signature. Let your silence become your strength. Because the world doesn't reward the man who screams his pain, it rewards the man who uses it. The man who doesn't break under pressure, but becomes unbreakable. The man who doesn't need attention to stay motivated. The man who shows up even when no one's watching. That's the man who wins, not by getting her back, but by becoming someone she could never keep up with. And when that happens, when you're living at that level of self-mastery, purpose, and inner peace, you won't be looking back. You'll be too busy building a life so powerful, so undeniable, that the past doesn't just fade. It becomes irrelevant.